Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. What an absolute pleasure it is to be here back at the Foundation Day for IMA. I've done many of these, and it's a pleasure to be back amongst you. And it's particularly special to be here in the midst of these three formidable leaders. And I won't call them three formidable women, because that they are, and that's stating the obvious, but they are three formidable leaders who have left an indelible mark on the businesses that they operate in, but also more importantly, on the ecosystem. Each one of them has headed an industry body, Preeta Reddy at CII, Sangeeta Reddy at FICCI, and now you did IMA earlier, and now Sunita is doing IMA, and Sangeeta was at FICCI. So they've had a stint, and Shobna was at CII, and and we're missing Shobna today, but we'll try and make up for that. So they have left their imprint not just on Apollo Hospitals, but also on their businesses. And why do I say that they are formidable leaders? And I think numbers tell the story. So I'm just going to take you through what has happened to Apollo Hospitals since the time that it listed in 1996, but more importantly, in the 2 decades that Apollo Hospitals has been in existence. It is today India's largest private sector hospital. It has about 9,500 beds today, if I'm correct. Sunita would know if my numbers are correct or not, but Sunita, 9,500 beds as of FY24 end. Next year, going to 10,000, and they have, of course, delivered on profitability, on return on capital employed. And today, if you look at the India healthcare story and you look at what various brokerages and investors are looking at, Apollo Hospitals is clearly one of the bets that everyone is taking forward. But let's get started. And Preeta, I want to start by talking to you. Of course, is the eldest of the 4 sisters, but Preeta, you were actually the last one to join the business. I believe you joined the business only when Sangeeta decided to get married.
That's true, because when we started off, I was 19 when I got married, and my father didn't believe in girls working till Sunita came along, and she named Apollo. She helped him with the fundraising and everything which needed to be done. And then Shobna built the whole thing. Sangeeta was the first employee and brought it all together. So I was a bit jobless till Sangeeta went away, and they just said, go there and do what you have to do, because now you have to help. But it was 3 of them who were there before me.
3 of them who were there before you. And Sunita, let's get started with you, because as Preeta said, you were the one who kind of shepherded the entire operation together with your father. And I want to go back to the comment made by your father, as well as I think it was Sangeeta who, while speaking at a FICCI forum, said that people would look at Dr. Reddy and say, poor Dr. Reddy, he has 4 daughters. And, today, as you look back at the story, and I think most people in the room here and those watching us on TV and online would agree that what a story it's turned out to be. They will look at Dr. Reddy with envy for having 4 daughters like you who've turned into these formidable leaders. I think it does deserve a big round of applause for what they've been able to create. Not just the value that they've been able to create, but the impact that they've been able to make as well. Sunita, let's start by talking about building out the Apollo story with your father.
So I think the building was, when you do something new, it's never easy. Bringing the first corporate hospital to India was never easy, but my father was a man of conviction, foresight, and most importantly, he trusted people. So he gave us that responsibility. For me, it was always about how do you raise funds and how do you make sure the organization was sustainable. It was just like a lab that was, all the research and work was done at home. And it took some time for it, for us to get the licenses. First, to get a loan from the banks, and he must have done 50 trips to Delhi to make sure that happened. Healthcare sector needed 72 licenses, and you've heard about deregulation earlier. This industry badly needed it. So getting those licenses, and most important, it was changing the psyche of people. Before Apollo, it was trust hospitals and government hospitals. And then there was Apollo, which was a corporate hospital, because it needed to be sustainable, it needed to be self-funding, and of course, it was never Apollo Hospital. From day one, his vision was Apollo Hospitals.
Yes, it was Apollo Hospitals, and there are many Apollo Hospitals, not just in India, but global as well. And I'll talk to you about FDI because you were in a way responsible for bringing FDI into the healthcare sector in India. And today, private equity can't have enough of Indian healthcare, but I'll get to that in just a second. But Sangeeta, as I look at the three of you, and there's a lot that's similar. There's a glue that ties each one of you together, and of course that has to do with the fact that your father has been the overarching kind of mentor to each one of you. But what is it that sets the three of you apart, and how is it that all of you have been able to come together to merge and ensure that your complementarities work for the business?
I think Shireen figured out that this is an IMA conference. So let's talk about management skill sets and complementarity. Fate would have it that either by chance, training, aptitude, or skill, that each one of us had a particular strength. And I'm glad that the organization was able to recognize and use those strengths. Sunita, as she stated earlier, has the clear strength in finance. She understands numbers. She is a perfectionist in the aspect of return on capital employed and creating stakeholder value.
Why are you nodding your head? Are you not?
I hope that's not the only
No,
lens.
but she continuously propels the organization towards clinical differentiation. Preetaka makes it happen. So she pulls people together, inspires them to do more, has the doctors continuously seeing the value of working as a team. So that's Preetaka's unique skill strength. Shobna is an entrepreneur. She has speed, she has power, she has energy. I evolved a technology skill set, so truly it's coming to become one of the powerful things that is enabling Apollo to think beyond our 9,500 beds. When you do telemedicine in 150 countries, when you're able to reach 10,000 postal codes, when you're using the power of the mobile phone and the UPI and the current environment, and when you're dreaming about artificial intelligence. So each of these skill sets have come together, and I think we've been extremely lucky in our teams, in our diversity, and in our unified purpose.
But this wasn't something that your father designed. It wasn't choreographed that, you're going to look at digital and Sunita's going to look at finance and Preeta's going to look at something. It wasn't designed by your father. It kind of organically happened.
It evolved, and I think it's a lot like Apollo. If you think in 1983, nobody thought we would be where we were. Even getting that one hospital up, we thought was a huge achievement. But when you're doing something right for the right reasons, then certain forces take over. I think this was one of those.
Speaking about forces taking over, and I want to get all three of you to respond to this, because when you started your journey at Apollo Hospitals, it was your father's journey. It was your father's vision that you were taking forward. When did it start to become yours? When did you say that you wanted to find your own voice, your own vision for what you wanted Apollo Hospitals to be? When did it become more than Pratap Reddy's vision for each one of you?
So we started off by being, good daughters. We found him working so hard, so we all put our hat in the ring and we said we'll work. But as you work in a hospital, it's probably the greatest leveler. You realize that you're not doing anything for yourself because you can't. Whether it's the chairman and dad's vision, which continues to propel us forward. But I think whatever we do is to be very patient-centric, even if it's, digital, even if it's the e-pharmacies or the e-learning, every other aspect of just pure hospitals. Everything is centered around that one patient who needs us, multiple formats of that continuum of care. So I think at some point it was more about them, more about the person who trusts us and comes to us. So it's not about us anymore at all.
It's not about you anymore at all. But Sunita, when did it become something that you wanted to define for yourself, something that you wanted to take forward for yourself beyond what your father had envisaged this to be?
No, I think for me it's just, I said it must be I've been called because there's a purpose in life, and I've joined Apollo. But I have to say that Dad's vision continues to drive us, and it has not changed. Even last year, 2 years ago, it was all about oncology and cutting-edge clinical outcomes. Today, it's about preventive health care. It's always been about the greatest clinical care at 1/10 of the cost. So I have a vision too. And once chairman-
What is Sunita Reddy's vision?
No, my vision is really, now that we've cut the processes and the cost to 1/10, is to re-engineer the medical equipment, to work with the IITs, to use the research, to make sure that medical equipment also were able to produce at 1/10, and we're able to fund this creation of manufacturing in healthcare space.
But do you see that as being a reality? Are we any closer to making manufacturing of medical equipment in India? The government has put out a bunch of schemes, but
Yes,
are
yes.
we any closer to that being a reality? I want to get each one of you to come in on that. Preeta?
Yes, I
Yeah.
think we are.
Preeta, you want to come in on that as well?
I think we are definitely closer because, India is very good at re-engineering something. So even if you pull equipment apart and put it together and then make it as a Make in India product, it's just going to take a little longer. But for example, the robot, we have this high-end Da Vinci robot, but there's a company in Gujarat making robots for the knee and for multiple other uses, and they're just as good. If you take the label off, you don't know where it came from. So India is doing it. Cardiac stents, mitral clips, all these very high-end products, they are exporting to other countries. So it's already happening. And 80% of our imports on medical devices is from abroad. We import it.
Yeah, yeah.
But that 80 should slowly go down. It should be 20 and it should be 80% made in India. I think we're on the right track. And with the fact that, Sunita is working with IITs and many innovation hubs are happening, I don't see why we are not going to be exporting made in India products.
Well, exporting made in India products to actually getting people to heal in India, which is of course the government's vision as well. And we heard from the finance minister in the budget, Sangeeta, and you've just come from a conference that's focusing on exactly that, the heal in India opportunity. Everyone's been talking about medical tourism and so on and so forth. What does it realistically mean? Where are we today in that journey? What do you believe the next steps need to be?
So I think, like many things, Dad saw this way before its time. 20 years ago, when he said India will become the epicenter of healing, nobody believed him. Today, patients from 140 countries come to India for care. This sector is growing. It's because of the fact that Indian doctors are capable of giving care at 1/10 of global prices, but with the same outcomes. However, I think connecting everything that we've been speaking about, lower cost diagnostics, much cheaper medical devices, and then adding the new layer of the continuum of care, of artificial intelligence, of technology, will enable us to do so much more. So, this is a closed room, we can talk about it. About 2 years
Only
ago.
a couple of cameras around, but please go right ahead.
No, but it's something we can be proud of, that 2 years ago, Dad was in a meeting with the Honorable Prime Minister, and 4 of us were privileged to be there. And they shared that vision of what Heal in India would be. And when Dad spoke about medical value travel, the Prime Minister said, let's make this Heal in India. And then their conversation took this to 3 important dimensions. Heal in India, that patients can come to India for allopathic as well as alternate medicine. Heal from India, because using connectivity, bandwidth, Internet of Medical Things, devices, we can monitor intensive care patients in UK or US while doctors are sitting in India. You can do telerobotic surgery. So heal from India. And finally, heal by India, because the world has a 17 million global workforce shortage. We need to train more people, do harmonization of degrees, and let them go everywhere in the world. This is a future which is fast unfolding, and Apollo is definitely working on making this happen.
So how do you leverage on this opportunity? And I want to get all three of you to build on this. You talked about the healing in India opportunity. Given the fact that you are today the largest hospital and of course fully integrated as well across different businesses between pharmacy, diagnostics, and of course healthcare, what do you believe the next steps will be? What kind of opportunities does it open up for Apollo? Sangeeta, I'll start by asking you.
Okay, I think there's some more foundational work existing in terms of the visas, the flight connectivity, the methodology with which we're able to receive patients, the tracking, the streamlining, the Services Council of India, the governments, there's work to be done there. However, even today, approximately 8% of our turnover comes from international patients, and they come from as far as Fiji and even UK and USA. So I think this is a trend which is continuing. A little bit more facilitation will make this happen. And the potential of this number, the global number for medical value travel is estimated to be over $40 billion. And this is growing at 36%. Many countries are finding healthcare unaffordable because the rate of healthcare inflation is higher than general inflation. And therefore they're unable to afford care and seeking more cost-effective alternatives. Therefore, there's a very large potential for India to do this.
Large potential for India to do this. How significantly is Apollo poised to build on this opportunity, and what do you believe you may need to do differently once, of course, the ecosystem and the environment is much more facilitative to encourage larger numbers to come in, Preeta?
Shireen, we've built some of the best hospitals which are globally available. We've got our Proton Center in Chennai, and they treat a large number of patients. They come from US, UK, or New Zealand. But it's the kind of infrastructure which was built, the focus on equipment, because that is best in class. And the clinicians and nurses and the paramedical staff are truly trained so well that you can be anywhere in the world. And we're replicating this in multiple cities. There's something coming up in Delhi, there's Bombay, Hyderabad, Bangalore. So we're doing this in multiple cities, and I don't see why patients don't come. So I think as providers, we have to just give people best in class of what we do. The clinical outcomes have to be so focused, so sharp, and so well done that they don't really, the trust is there, and they don't really need to go anywhere else. I think that aspect is coming together very well. If the government does a little bit of facilitation on the visa, on the process of arrival, makes us a little bit more friendly as a country like Bangkok does or some other countries do, we should be there.
Well, Sunita, since we're talking about numbers as well and the opportunity, and I was looking at a bunch of reports, including a CLSA report, which talks about the fact that India's healthcare sector is perhaps at an inflection point in terms of spends, in terms of expenditure, and it's perhaps going through what China went through between 2007 and 2021. And potentially we could be talking about a growth rate of between 12 and 13% over the next 10 years for the industry. I want to understand from you, what are we talking about? Let's quantify the opportunity in numbers.
I think how do you quantify an opportunity that could mean 1.4 billion lives? How could you quantify an opportunity that could actually reach out to 6 billion lives? So while we think of it, we have to have a short-term vision to make sure that we have the sustainable cash flows, and our India market is such. I think the long-term opportunity, the vision is also to take what we've built here across the world. In our own, we might not be investing capital, but we did that very successfully in Sri Lanka. In Bangladesh, we did very well. But having said that, I think that this is the time where we're leveraging intellectual property and maybe some investments to make sure that we become a global player. It's not enough just to be an Indian player. And if you talk about growth in India, it's always 2 times GDP or 3 times, which is your figure of 11 to 12%. But I think that if you add the international travel, 2 things differentiate us from, the big players in Thailand. Bumbumgrad gets 250 flights coming into Bangkok every day. It doesn't happen in India. So we have to think beyond the cost arbitrage, the convenience arbitrage. And hopefully this will happen. And like Preeta said, the clinical work is really outstanding. But I do believe that we must think, we have always, Apollo has focused on the India market, and that's why we're the only one present in Tier 1, Tier 2, and in metros. But our future expansion is in the big metros, where we have, which are very well connected. People have the paying power. And I think that the growth that you can see is, you can expect to see at least us growing by 15% in the core business.
Shireen, one point, you said, what are we doing differently? I think Sangeeta should talk about the clinical intelligence engine, which she and her team have created. And I think that's a game changer.
Let's talk about the game changer then, Sangeeta.
Okay. So I think this is something Shobna and I are working on together, but more than us, it's our team. It's data scientists, and it's unlocking the power and the value of the fact that over years, we always invested in maintaining patient records and data. So today, with 40 million medical records, this is large, multiple terabytes of data. We're using this and building the artificial intelligence engine, which will enable a doctor who's just graduated from medicine to have insight and access to the care protocols of someone with 20 years of experience. You layer on top of that the latest developments, which probably happened last week, which are validated and published, will again be in the CIA. So the capability of giving at the doctor's fingertips the type of knowledge will be a transformatory engine. And this engine then speaks to what Sunita was saying, that whether we have our infrastructure and facilities across the globe, we can definitely have our knowledge and our reach across the globe. So the new age of global healthcare, driven by Indian capability, knowledge, artificial intelligence, and technology, will embed these. The CIE is our first step, the clinical intelligence engine. Along with that, we're building with Microsoft a doctor co-pilot so that we automate. Then we're doing agents. So the agentic AI, of which the first version, Ask Apollo, is to enable individuals, consumers, to seek out. Today, you look at Instagram, social media, everywhere somebody's giving you health advice. Eat this, drink this, don't eat that, do that. We want to give you credible health advice, validated, scientifically appropriate health advice. So Ask Apollo is our agent for everyone. And so here, really, that in our vision of healthcare, we will go beyond the walls. In our vision of healthcare, we will go beyond doing surgeries and treatment. We will focus on keeping people healthy. And in our vision of healthcare, we will support not just directly, but across the global ecosystem for better health.
So let's build on this intelligence engine that you speak of that's going to be driving Apollo for the future. Sunita, what does this mean in terms of investments? What kind of investments are you putting in? Are you loosening the purse string so that Shobna and Sangeeta can have fun with them?
Shireen, let me say a basic philosophy in Apollo. And that is that, we're never satisfied with 15% growth because the opportunity is so large. So if you look at the healthcare provider vertical, we will grow at 15%. But the new verticals, which is Apollo HealthCo and Apollo Health and Diagnostics, these are the ones that really will give us that extra growth of 20 to 30%. And that's how the company will keep growing, because we need to keep revitalizing ourselves. I think when we reach that plateau of 11 to 12, even though it's on a large base, we make sure that there is exponential growth in the core and the ancillaries.
In
subsidiaries.
In the new subsidiaries that you're focusing on. I want to get the three of you to comment, since we're talking about legacy and we're also talking about creating and adding value to the legacy that you already are sitting on. This is a comment that Uday Kotak made at his investor conference a couple of days ago, where he said that, look, the next gen at this point in time is busy with family offices and investments and not actually running the business of factories. What is it like? How do you intend to take this forward beyond your generation now? And Preeta, you want to start with that?
I think, among the four of us, we have 10 children. And they have to be given the freedom to follow their dreams. So some of them are doing it, maybe something completely different. from healthcare. But there are others who really love healthcare. I guess they've seen us day in and day out, so they are part of the system. And a couple of them are doing things very differently, but in the healthcare space. So I think they will help to grow. They will help to grow Apollo in multiple different formats, whether it's in the pharmacy, whether it's a digital or pure hospital, or in the wellness space. So they geared up to do it. They've been educated well. It's coming together nicely. And I think few years from now, even now they tell us what to do. They tell us.
What are they telling you? What are they telling you to do?
Would they tell us we need to be quick in what we do? We're not quick enough for them. And they tell us that the ecosystem is such that you have to be more social media savvy. You have to know you have to be quick in that aspect. But I must say that they're very wise with investments. So sometimes it's investment of passion. They don't approve of that. They say it has to make sense for the company.
So they're more
I think
fiscally
they're very
disciplined
conscious.
than you.
I would think so. Especially me. Especially me.
Especially you. Sunita?
I think I'm going to say something slightly different, because if you think of the family, my father never looked at profits. He never looked at family offices that will generate value. He just took it for granted that when you do something good, you earn profit. And I think a lot of that is in the DNA of the children. They do recognize that they have to create a future for the next generation, for their families, and to make sure Apollo is sustainable. So they have that lens of sustainability. When they get involved in something, they're really there. They're 100% involved. We have one or two of them who are very good at finance and will look at profitability and ROC. But in terms of a family office, I think it's more about what more can we do, what is new and what is next. We don't really invest in portfolio companies, etc. We create those companies.
You create those companies, and I think that was his lament, that perhaps there's not a lot of creation actually happening. The focus much more on investing. Sangeeta, your thoughts?
So I just want to add one dimension. I agree with everything that my sisters have said.
How much of agreement is there usually there between the four of you?
I think there's clear agreement on we have to agree to do everything we can for the company's sake. The path, the method, the time frame, the investment, there's a lot of conversation, let me say.
Let's say
But I want to add...
I can see it started. Please go ahead.
Yeah. I just want to say, we're in agreement. After 9 p.m., we're in agreement on everything, because we always go to bed.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
So your bedtime is what, 9 p.m.?
No, we made this rule that we will never sleep over a disagreement. So around 9:30, it's like, everything is okay, everything is fine and all. Next day, you can pick it up and say, listen, and it's all about the company. There are no personal disagreements, thank God. There's no disagreement on anything else, which in the company, as she said, we will approach the end game is the same. We might approach it differently. But I think thank God for that, because how boring would it be that if everybody just did the same thing? It doesn't make sense. And there is always another way. There's always a better way to do it. And I think we're lucky, because if I was stressed or worried or I needed to make a decision, I would call Sunita and say, listen, I'm really worrying about this. What do you think? And, she would tell Sangeeta sometimes that maybe, Sangeeta, there's a better way to do it. Or tell Shobna. So I think four of us managed to bounce things off each other. And always when the company matters more than individuals, it is all right way to do. We always succeed on that.
There's one dimension I want to actually that the G3 have had. See, we grew up not really thinking of the difference between founder, owner, professional, entrepreneur. We just did it all without thinking too much. In G3, and because of the size and the scale, we're consciously, we have been professionalizing a lot more. We're working with many skilled, talented professionals, and finding the right balance between owner, entrepreneur, professional. But I think there's an overarching philosophy which is our secret sauce, which is that everybody is family. Dad said this on the day of our inauguration in 1983, that our family was now more than him and mom and 4 sisters. So everyone who comes into Apollo becomes family. So that ties it together. But the working with professionals is a very important skill set, and the balance between these two, I think, has been one of the things that I'm particularly happy and proud about.
You know, I want to build a little bit more on this secret sauce that you spoke of, and this business of not sleeping over a disagreement and making sure that you clear the air, so to speak, by the time you hit the sack, and then pick it up the next day. I remember, you know, Mr. Murthy always told me that at Infosys there were 7 co-founders, and there was a lot of debate and a lot of discussion. But at the end of the day, he said, you know, in God we trust. Everybody else brings data to the table. What is the driving philosophy at Apollo? How do you find a breakthrough when there is a disagreement on approach, on way forward, on the outcomes, and so on and so forth?
What's good for the patient? Very clear.
What's good
for the patient?
Because it always works well financially.
Let me give you an example. You know, there's this huge investment into the proton machine. And it was 2 or 3 board meetings, right, Suni? Where Dad had to, you know, speak to the board and convince them. It really, at that point, did not even make financial sense. But he kept saying, this is the right thing to do. It's the right thing for the patient. It's done okay. It's done pretty well. And we're thinking of, you know, should we be, but others are doing also. So somewhere it was a right decision. So when you do it not for yourself, but you're doing it because we are in the business of caring and you can't get away from it. So if you get the caring right, the business follows, and there's, I mean, the governance over the business, you know, they do really, really well. So it does work out right. We do disagree. But at the end of the day, it's always about, you know, the caring for the patient. Let's do this. And I think it just works out. In God we trust. In the patient we trust.
We have questions coming in. Yes, Sunita, you wanted to make a point to what Preeta was saying as well?
No. I completely agree with what she said.
But, you know, I want the 3 of you to address an issue that is currently capturing headlines globally. And it started with what we're seeing happen in the US with this pushback on diversity and inclusion.
Yes.
Does it worry you? Does it concern you? Sangeeta, I'll start by asking you, does it concern you to see the kind of comments that are being made, to see the pushback against diversity, inclusion, and what that eventually means for having more diverse organizations and perhaps seeing more women in leadership roles as well?
So, Shireen, I think it is very clear to every intellectually and spiritually evolved human being that diversity is the only way for humanity. We've taken some time to bring that to the forefront of the corporate dialogue. We've taken some time to bring it into the workplace environment, and there's a lot of way to go. The fact is that society is made up of 2 parts, the male and the female. Historically, women had a different role to play because the nature of work was different. But I'm 100% confident that in the information era, in the knowledge era, this is the time that men and women will have an equal place, and all forms of diversity are critical. And it's important for us to stand up for it, because as you're feeding in artificial intelligence models, unless you have the perspective of every aspect of society, for example, only 9% of all research, medical research, goes into healthcare related to women disorders. Therefore, you're going to have less cures. But imagine if that's the same case in artificial intelligence and the inputs are coming less from women or less from different segments of society. So it's important for all of us to protect diversity at every possible opportunity that we have.
But what was it like for the 3 of you? And I remember you saying, Sangeeta, that, you know, your first day when you walked in and you saw all of these men, and you were intimidated, and they were looking at you as if, you know, what do you know? You're not a doctor, and you're very young, and what do you know about the business? But not just at Apollo, externally as well. You know, when you were leading FICCI, what was that like for you, and what do you believe are some of the obstacles that women still have to overcome in their leadership roles?
So Shireen, clearly, I started work 4 decades ago, and the world has evolved, and I think the Indian male has significantly evolved in their appreciation of women's role in the workplace. India is one of the best places for women to work. I have no doubts about that. Truly. I think this is because of the appreciation as well as the support system. So let's not, appreciate the fact that the world is a very practical place. And if there's a child to be taken care of, it's somehow automatically the woman at home. Yeah. If there's an elder person to be taken care of, it's the woman at home. So the creation of a care economy, which enables women to confidently move into the workplace and enables men to feel that their vulnerable family members are protected because the ecosystem is taking care of it, will push towards diversity. There are many steps, whether in the corporation, society, government, individual, or in the way we bring up our children. This is a big subject. I'm not going to go into it. I just want to conclude this point by saying that women are capable and society needs women on an equal footing. So please do everything you can to make it happen. And as a quick aside, not just to Shireen up here, but I think Aima has Rekha, so she's been proving the power of women as well.
Yes, absolutely, and Rekha deserves a big round of applause as well. And I agree with you. We need more diversity. Sunita, you wanted to come in as well?
No, I did. I think my life was not so easy. The day I started work, the CFO of the company said, "You're the boss's daughter. That's why you got this job." And in a way, I felt, yes, I am the boss's daughter, but I think education is very important. I think we should lead from a point of knowledge rather than just think, that an equal opportunity will be given to a woman. I think we need to be on, to have that knowledge, to have the experience, to really then aspire for the right position. And I went back to college. As soon as he said that to me, I went back, I learned balance sheets, capital structuring, treasury management, and I went to Harvard because I realized, I think, in a way I have a very open mind and I thought the learning was good. So I think even for other women coming into the workforce, it might not be so easy for the next generation of many of the rich people. They might just think this is the boss's daughter. So always come with the right knowledge.
Always come with the right knowledge and come with preparation. I think that is very, very key, and that's great advice that you're leaving us with. We've got plenty of questions coming in, and this is an interesting one. Preeta, let me start by asking you, what was the contribution of your mother and her role in making each one of you the individuals that you are today?
I think she played a huge role because for some reason, even when we were young, she kept telling us that we needed to be independent, have our own stream of cash, looking after yourselves. So she said, study well, do what you have to do, but equip yourself well. So she did that. And somehow, she led us the right way. Then when we had children, when we were busy working, it was always, she was the anchor. And that was very important. Even now, she insists that however busy we all are, if she says we have to come together for a family event or a family function, no questions asked. We don't even dare to say anything else. And so she's kind of the anchor for everything which you do spiritual. But there was one thing, she was actually writing something once on one of her birthdays, and she likened the four of us, and it actually puts a responsibility on us. And I'll start with Sangeeta. Sangeeta's this powerhouse of knowledge. When she says something, we just look at her in awe. So she calls Sangeeta Saraswati.
Aww.
And Shobana, she said Durga, because she's just out there and she will get it done. And Sunita, in her own beautiful way, controls everything, so she's the Lakshmi. And I think then she didn't know what to say about me. She said, but you're the Parvati, you have to just see that all of them are looked after and things happen. So what my mother did is that she just put this whole responsibility on all of us to behave. And I think that is the single big contribution she's done about keeping us together.
But Shireen, I want to add one thing. The question is about what mom did for all of us. I think mom had a role in who my father has become today. So it is equally the way she molded his perspective of life and the impact that a human being can have. So I think the woman at home is very powerful, whether she comes into the formal workplace or not.
So give me a second to
Yes.
tell you a joke. We were entertaining the former president of India at home, and there was a fabulous dinner. And my father kept saying that they were praising her about the food. And she said, I taught her how to cook. And I said, put a little bit more of this. He was taking credit for the food. Mm-hmm. So one of the doctors looked at him and I said, yes, of course. But Mrs. Reddy taught chairman how to run hospitals. So that was the greatest comment, I think, which we'll never forget.
No, and thank you so much for sharing that memorable story. Saraswati, Lakshmi and Parvati, we're missing Durga today, but we've got the entire pantheon here with us. Another question that's coming in, besides going for MBBS, what other careers does Apollo offer to science students? I would imagine that this is coming in from a student. Sangeeta?
Okay. So I think science is today a basis to do anything else. A science plus an MBA can bring you into operations. Science and genetics has an amazing future. Science with information technology will help in AI and drug discovery. So it's a fantastic base degree, but you need the next level of super qualification as well.
Succession planning at Apollo. This is a question that's come in from Mr. Narendra. Preeta, you want to take this?
So I think as far as we are concerned, we've all got our spaces and we will continue to do. And, Dad is our executive chairman. The next gen has to earn their stripes. And they're working very hard, It has to be capability, it has to be ability. So we have to give them a little bit of time. And the time will come, and then I think out of capability they'll decide. But as Sangeeta said earlier, we're becoming more and more a professionally run organization, because now they're fantastic professionals. When we started, there weren't so many available, but now we have fabulous professionals running what we have to do. So I think there is space to grow new businesses, and that is where the succession planning will come.
Well, we will wrap this up in the next 5 minutes. Sunita, I want to understand from you, because what we've seen, especially in the last few years, is this influx of private equity money into healthcare. More importantly, buyouts of hospital chains in India. And I've had this conversation with the three of you previously as well to ask whether that would ever be a possibility as far as Apollo Hospitals and the Reddy sisters are concerned. Would you ever consider selling out?
No, I don't think so. I think, where we are today, we have very strong cash flows. We have a strong balance sheet. We have enough money for expansion. And I think that even if we needed to take additional debt, at this time we probably don't need equity. But I think this is the time for us to grow from strength to strength. So having said that, will we look at equity in some form for some business? Probably could be open to that.
Open to raising equity in some of your businesses. So let me ask each one of you before we close on what Apollo Hospitals could look like in the next 5 to 10 years. If I take a look at your latest numbers, revenue of about 19,059 crores, profit after tax of almost 900 crores. Sunita, what could Apollo Hospitals look like 5-10 years on?
Even in the next 3 years, I think we should be close to 50,000 crores in the next 3 years. And if you're growing at 20%, clearly, 70,000 crores is something that you could see from the combined entity.
Well, that's as far as numbers go. Impact-wise, where do you believe Apollo Hospitals would like to be in 5 or 10 years?
I think we have to be able to touch, right now we do almost 10 to 15 million lives a year. We need to do 3 times that number. And we need to be able to serve patients from neighboring countries. And I think that is very important, and we're going to head out doing that. But the excitement is to be able to train more people, because there's a huge gap in skilled manpower. So 3 years, 5 years down the road, we need to really double the number of people who are available in our system. And I think that's one of our challenges. Which we
Sangeeta, I'm going to end with a little bit of fun with you. What do we not know about Preeta Reddy and Sunita Reddy?
This is a tough one. Can I just answer the impact question,
Yes,
please?
before, while you rummage around for.
So I think
But I won't let you go without that.
Absolutely. So I just want to say that this opportunity to serve is beyond the high-end hospitals. We will continue to do that fabulously. 10 times the 14 million people that we touch includes telemedicine. You know, right now, last year we did about 2 million health checkups. I urge you to join us on the journey of keeping people healthy and early detection. So I want to see in the next 3 years, we should be doing 15 to 20 million health checkups per year and taking care of families and keeping them healthy. So that's one. The thing that, now you want this fun insight.
Yes, the masala.
So nobody will believe it, but Sunita can eat half a chocolate cake.
Half a chocolate cake?
She can eat half a chocolate cake. Her weakness is chocolate. Preetaka is, you know, everybody looks up to her like this goddess. She's the most perfect human being. So it's very difficult to
She
find
thinks she
these
won't
things.
dare say anything, by the way.
No. And of course, all of us are scared of her. But she has this aura, but she's the most fun person. She can dance in the rain. She can sing. She will, you know, let her hair down. So there's an image and a persona, and then there's a fun person behind it. And finally, while Sunita talks about numbers, she's actually the most deeply spiritual person I have ever known. So I feel very blessed to have these amazing sisters. And Shobna's not here, and you didn't ask the question, but I do want to say that if there's a combination of courage, entrepreneurship spirit, and we're going to make it happen. When she was young, she started driving when she was like 11 or 12 years old, and she wouldn't let anybody cross her on the road. So it's that drive and that inner thing of we have to be ahead, which truly embodies Shobna. So I don't know if anybody knew that. So I found you 3 things that nobody knows.
And now we need to close with something that we don't know about Sangeeta Reddy.
Should. If you can imagine someone with a deep brain and all heart, that's Sangeeta. And, you know, as children, we used to, 4 of us used to watch, but somewhere we had a slightly wicked streak, and we would put this movie called Lassie. And Sangeeta will watch it and cry and cry and cry. Yeah, because, you know, she's just so all heart about things, you know, and she hasn't changed that whenever something has to be done. Sangeeta will be the first one, the caring, you know, someone who goes 10 steps ahead to help someone, while she's got the most brilliant brain in her head.
Well, I have to say the perfect combination of courage, confidence, conviction, passion, perseverance, but all heart to the Reddy sisters. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause. Thank you so much for joining us, and we wish you the very best of luck going forward. Yes, the final say.
I think in terms of having Shireen, the most formidable person that you can ever meet on stage. She comes with so much knowledge, so much research, and she's always able to articulate those facts so well and bring out the best in all of us. So
thank you,
Shireen.
Thank you so much.
I voice it. Thank you, Shireen.
Shireen is the iron hand in the velvet glove.
Thank you very much. A big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for the fabulous Reddy sisters. Thank you.